So the Evolutions program, we're a program at the high school for 11th and 12th graders. We're a full year program, so they come to us to take their English, social studies, science, and art classes. And what we basically do is, instead of looking at a bunch of different topics in silos, we look at topics from a bunch of different perspectives within our disciplines, and then we ask our students to go out into the community and experience their learning there. And also process their learning. Instead of taking a test or writing a paper, we have them develop it through projects so they can show their learning in multiple different ways.
We were in the middle of developing that plan and thought it would be a great idea, one, to engage the students, but also as a way to have them review the concepts and review the ideas and even engage them in that process, because ultimately the value of the plan is not just for the adults that live in our community, but also the students and the school children and the kids that live in our community. It's a 10-year plan, so ultimately they hopefully would benefit from the outcomes of that plan.
So I'm doing diversity in Wellesley. So my mannequin is, we painted the chair black, representing the past in Wellesley, how Wellesley used to be a secluded community where a lot of people didn't come into Wellesley because they didn't feel comfortable because it was predominantly white. So when an African American wanted to move into Wellesley, the realtor used to bump the price of the house, and it was harder for them to move in. That's why we painted the mannequin different colors, because we learned the unified plan. A lot of people wanted people from different races and ethnicities to move into Wellesley. So instead of doing different colors, we did different colorful colors like blue, green. We showed it doesn't matter what color you are, you're more welcome into Wellesley. And this chain is going around showing this is the values of the people. And then it's going around this, what's it called, the foot, because a lot of people have those values and tradition because they don't want people from different backgrounds to move into Wellesley. While this one is kicking out, showing that the new upcoming generation of Wellesley High School have friends from different backgrounds, friends from different ethnicities. And this flower, the rose, we use this rose because it shows compassion, love, and the hand is reaching out, because people here want to welcome people from different backgrounds. They want people from different ethnicities to move into Wellesley so Wellesley can be more diverse as a community.
My chair focuses on Wellesley Town Government and the Planning Committee, and kind of how they work with the community and the board and plan for the future of Wellesley and establish projects that are going to be seen in the future and better the town for the generations to come. Here we have it's a smaller chair, just like a child's chair, with a child's doll to represent the youth of Wellesley and the future generations and what we're bettering the town and what we'll see in the future. Here on the top we have a mirror, and the mirror is showing a reflection of the viewers, and it represents how you're seeing yourself in the reflection, and so every individual has a say in the plans that go into the board and what they consider and the projects that they're going to pursue. And then also we have a gold chair, and it looks like an angel, because one of the main strengths of the planning committee is that they work, the word they used was harmoniously together. So we did a play on words and we went with that theme. And then the gold is to show an ideal, perfect future for the town and what we hope to see and plan.
I personally loved Evolutions this year, especially just being able to, I feel like I was learning things I was going to use in my real life, not just learning how to get into college and then trying to figure it all out in college. I feel like I was learning skills that I was going to carry with me for the rest of my life, like how to interact with people on a very professional level, and then also how to build, present, and display a project. What our chair is supposed to represent is the economic development within the town of Wellesley. The previous broken weave underneath represents how the previous town government structure kind of allowed the branches to go in their own directions without any form of unification. And how with this new unified plan, they plan on kind of not removing any branches or adding any branches, but changing the way the branches work with one another to create a more stable and structural weave. Also, the layers of plexiglass represent the different layers or levels of government within the town of Wellesley, and they also represent that there's a new amount of transparency between the government and its people.
Along with this, we also have the chair supported by a house down at the bottom to show how it's our housing taxes that is really funding our government, that's really like supporting everything that our government does, as 80% of our money comes from there. And then also back here we have our mannequin to show how the government is both supporting it, but also you should be seeing yourself and you should be seeing your the citizens of Wellesley reflected within the town government.
My chair and my mannequin were part of the Historical and Cultural Resources branch of the Wellesley Unified Plan. And I guess I'll start with the chair. So on the arms right here, we have the old Pond Road, and then we have the new Pond Road, sort of to show how it's changed and evolved over the years, even though it's still considered one of the scenic roads of Wellesley. And then right here on these little spindles, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different little locations. And everywhere where you see a blue background, that shows that it is an older location or an older image and information on a location. And then when you turn it around, you're going to get the new information and what it looks like current day. And so then on the seat of our chair, we have a map of the North 40, and everywhere that's underneath the tracing paper is what it looked like back in the 1800s. So all of the names like Blossom Street and all of the different areas where different places owned. And then everywhere that's been superimposed with tracing paper is going to be something that you would see current day. So Morse's Pond got larger. There is a whole new neighborhood that is within the North 40. You can still see the railroad, and you can still see the you can see that there is a new trail for hiking and walking. And then the final aspect of our chair is the bottom of the chair, and this is our cultural aspect. So we created a stage, and we made a little sign that had all of the main organizations and things that you can join if you want to be part of the cultural sort of scene in Wellesley. And the reason we displayed it here is because we do have a need for a place for there to be cultural events and where people can practice, but it's often overlooked by everything else that we're trying to do and everything else that we're trying to improve within the town of Wellesley. And then finally, we have our mannequin right here, who is modeled to look like Katherine Lee Bates. And we did that because she was one of the most iconic women that's kind of been in Wellesley. She wrote the song America the Beautiful, though it was initially a poem. And we do have a timeline as well that she's holding that has sort of a really quick summarized history of everything that's happened in Wellesley, whether it be which locations were built or which people were living in the town at the time. And then I initially actually got started with Evolutions by wanting it to do it last year. So I signed up and I got everything ready for my junior year, but I was talking to my mom and we both decided it would probably be smarter for me to do it senior year. Just because after junior year I've gotten all of my required courses and I've gotten everything that I kind of needed to do out of the way. And so doing it this year was actually probably the best choice I could have ever made because I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed every minute of it. I loved learning this year, which was not something you usually hear someone say. And so I got to enjoy learning, but I also got to take other courses that I wanted to learn about. And I wouldn't have been able to do that otherwise if I had been taking Evolutions last year and I was a lot more restricted in my other blocks. I think that the information and the skills that I learned in Evolutions will help me when I go to college next year. If not so much for the information that they taught me, the skills and the ways at which I went about things this year, because I learned a lot about time management with a program that's project-based. It's kind of impossible to not learn how to manage your time well, and it's kind of hard not to learn kind of the do's and don'ts. And I also really learned the value of teamwork and communication, and that sounds really corny, but when you're working on a project with someone for 6+ weeks, you need to learn how you have to really talk through everything that you're thinking because people can't read your mind.
Essentially, our part of the Unified Plan was the Parks and Recreation one. So we kind of wanted to symbolize that a lot of the residents in Wellesley wanted opportunities for both like passive and active recreation. So like they wanted opportunities to like do stuff like at night and stuff like that, and like art and like programs and stuff like that. But they also wanted to preserve like all the paths we have going on, like Brook Path and like the parks and stuff like that. So that's kind of what we wanted to symbolize here. Here we have the map of Wellesley. I drew that. It's symbolizing, well, it shows all the trails, and I have some of the ponds and like open space over there. This guy kind of represents the more active stuff. He's wearing a lot of sports equipment, but like in our brochures we kind of show that like there are other opportunities. It's not just sports stuff. The vines also represent like the passive recreation going on, because like we want to preserve nature but also have like the opportunities to do stuff. Yeah.
For this project specifically, we had to talk a lot with the recreation department. We talked about their different goals. We read their part of the Unified Plan, and we really talked about them, what their vision was. And when we had our own vision, we brought it to them, and they sort of said, okay, we like this, we don't like this, switched it up, came up with something that both of the department and ourselves liked, and then we created it. They actually brought us out to Morse's Pond during one day in school just so they could show us some of the facilities that they had there and just talk a bit more about the recreation department. So we did have to work very closely with them to make this project. So Evolutions is a learning-based, or as an experiential-based learning program, and it's probably the best program in the high school, in my opinion. It really took something that I'm not so fond of, which is school, and it created into something that I could really enjoy and I look forward to coming to every day. Instead of taking tests every day and instead of sitting down and listening to teachers for hours, we get up and we do projects, we do experiential things. So for example, we'll go on field trips somewhere. We'll have what are called Harknesses, where everyone talks, not just one person. And it takes the traditional idea of school and it sort of flips it on its head and sort of says, well, how else could we do this? And it's a phenomenal program that really, I think, makes everyone in it enjoy it.
Our chapter was natural resources and conservation, and we wanted to incorporate that in our mannequin and our chair by showing the importance of maintaining and preserving open space, because 81% of the town of Wellesley said that that was an important value to them, and we wanted to show that through our mannequin and our chair.
And since it's all about being natural and maintaining open space and being environmentally friendly, we decided to use recycled materials for the arms. So these are water bottles for the arms, and for the hands we cut out soda cans.
And then for the sunflowers, we have them as the hands and then also as the head. We wanted those to represent sustainability and how that's an important value for the town of Wellesley as well.
I didn't really know anything about how important it is to the people of Wellesley to maintain the open space, and I didn't really know about this whole movement.
We actually met with Miss Hawkinson, and before we started designing our chair and our mannequin, and she gave us an overview of the NRC and talked to us about what their values and hopes are for the future, and then we were able to incorporate what she was saying and the chapter into our chair and mannequin. And then after we met with her and she gave us feedback, and we got feedback from the NRC as well.
Evolutions is a project-based learning program where you can express yourself in different ways that you aren't able to in regular school. You get to learn about things that you really enjoy. For example, I've learned about dog shelters, training dogs, and for this project we partnered with the community, and we are learning about affordable housing, diversity in Wellesley, transportation, and bringing light to that to the rest of the town. So my chair is showing smaller houses on this part of the chair, and it shows on the bottom here the bigger houses, and that's representing these smaller houses who have been built in Wellesley for a while, getting knocked down to create bigger houses for people who are much more wealthy. What we're hoping to do is take these big houses and create them into multifamily houses, and keeping the structure of the smaller houses so that people can come in who can't afford the larger houses. We have here the box represents, we're at around the 6.2 or 6.4 line of affordable housing. We're supposed to be at the 10. So we're hoping to get there. That's one of our 5 goals that are seen on the chair. We also have a map of Wellesley, and the red dots represent the places where most of the affordable housing is, around where most of the affordable housing is. And then our 2 dolls represent somebody who's coming in with much more money, who can afford the bigger houses. But then we have somebody who's coming in for more of the community aspect and the schools, but is kind of forced out because they're unable to provide the money to stay in Wellesley.
So this mannequin is supposed to represent the ideal commuter to Boston. So he bikes to work, he takes the T to work instead of just driving, because driving, it causes like a lot of traffic on Route 9 during rush hour. But right now it's not safe to bike or walk to work. So Wellesley needs to adopt a complete streets policy. And the complete streets policy basically is just adds safe and regulated bike lanes to every single road and sidewalks. That would make commute much safer for people that don't drive to work.
So we've partnered with the town of Wellesley to create a chair about sustainable mobility. The Sustainable Mobility chapter of the Unified Plan in Wellesley. So we've created a chair that fuses the mannequin with the chair to represent active and non-active transportation coming together. And we've painted like the seat of the chair to represent complete streets. And the mannequin represents active transportation, while the chair part represents the non-active transportation. And active is any transportation that's like self-powered, and non-active transportation is anything that is not self-powered, so like cars, trains, buses. That's our stuff.
The Evolutions program is a program where you can gather with other students, such juniors and seniors, and be able to work together in projects and attack education in a different style, in a way where you can use your mind more creatively and manage your time better with the way that the teachers are helping us learn.
For our chair, we met with Mike Zahner about sustainable mobility, and so he gave us like chapters to read about and basically base off our chair.
So if this project interests you and you might have a community project or a community partnership for next year, because we start looking in May, feel free to contact me. My email address, which you'll probably see below, is henest, HENEST, at wellesleyps.org, or you can check out the Evolutions website, which you can get to through the Wellesley High School page. We look for pretty much any and all possible project options. We'd love to talk to you about what you have in mind, and then we start to see, would it work for you and would it work for us?